I welcome everybody to Finding Self-Acceptance. My name is Matt McKeon. I'm a speech language pathologist. I have a master's degree in health sciences, but I'm also XXY. I also have Klinefelter's syndrome. And I really wanted to bring this topic to light because I feel I bring a lot of firsthand experience living with Klinefelter syndrome. And I also bring a lot of professional experience working with individuals who are diagnosed with or live with communication disorders and trouble expressing themselves and trouble accepting themselves for who they are following these changes that occur in their lifetime. And I've spent about the last 15 years or so leading support groups for these people and helping them to understand that they are not defined by their conditions, that they are not defined by their limitations, that they have inherent value and worth to the world despite these challenges they face. And I find it's really that there's really this inherent desire to be or to feel accepted by the world for who you are. And then along the same lines, there's this idea or this feeling within ourselves is, can we accept ourselves for who we are? Do I still have value even though I live with challenges? And through a lot of professional experience, I've found ways to help people not only accept the fact that they have a disorder or a diagnosis that a lot of people don't have, but I also found ways to help them accept themselves. So during this talk, I'm basically going to be sharing a little bit of my journey and my experience that really helped me accept myself a little better. And I want to make sure that people in the world know about this, that there are resources available to them, specific to X and Y variations. AXYS has a lot of resources that, in my opinion, are underutilized. And also through AXYS, it should be highlighted. You can read it on the screen. I also serve on the board of directors and on the executive committee, currently serving the role as treasurer. So I do play an active role in the community, and I do spend a lot of my personal and professional time advocating for others. So I'm here to share that experience with you. But I'm also joined by Hannah Acevedo, who I'm very happy to introduce.
Hi, everyone. I'm Hannah Acevedo. I'm honored to be here co-leading the session with Matt. I've just loved all interactions with Matt on the board of AXYS, and I'm excited to talk about this topic with him. I think it's very important for our entire community. Something that I've learned both professionally in my work as a school neuropsychologist and also in running support groups and learning about X and Y chromosome variations is that in our community, everyone kind of has different impacts, right, of the X and Y chromosome variation. And for many individuals, there's learning differences, there's attention or executive functioning differences. Some individuals in our community also have diagnoses of autism or traits, more of like a autistic thinking style. Many people in our community also struggle with depression or anxiety, or have physical needs that need to be addressed. And so, this is true for the entire world, for every human. And, I can also say you don't need to have X and Y variation to have some of these things, right? But something that's really come up a lot in our support groups is sometimes a feeling of being alone or not having community and kind of a desire for that. And so I just quickly wanted to share that the research in psychology is really, really emerging to support the importance of working on self-acceptance and self-compassion, and that is a really protective factor. And that when we don't really understand and accept ourselves, it's very hard to advocate for ourselves. And in fact, many individuals spend a lot of energy trying to hide certain traits of themselves, and that can lead to greater feelings of isolation or depression or anxiety. So this idea comes from actually Buddhism and psychologists kind of merging together, but it's been around with the Buddhist tradition for thousands of years. But it kind of hit the psychology field in the late 90s. And there was this idea of radical acceptance, which is a willingness to just experience ourselves and, accept our experience as it is. And there's this idea that suffering is caused from this idea that something's wrong with us, and that we can help alleviate suffering by trusting and opening ourselves to experience the fullness of who we are. So parallel to self-acceptance is this idea of self-compassion, where basically we treat ourselves as we would a good friend. And this is not narcissistic or egocentric. It's really just about being more mindful and open to how we emotionally respond to suffering in our own lives and in others, but really approaching our experience with kindness instead of judgment and curiosity, right? Also just thinking about our experience as something that can be part of the greater human experience and the opportunity for connection versus isolating. And then the last part is really just thinking about how we pay attention to our experience mindfully or over-identified, right? Like, oh, I'm all alone versus I'm feeling all alone. And yet there's more to it. So the main finding from the literature is this is brand new stuff, is just that there's a lot of research showing that the more we can nurture self-acceptance and compassion, we experience also less negative mental states like depression, anxiety, stress, and even suicidal ideation. That this is a very protective and resilience building factor. So we just wanted to bring in that we are hoping that our community can just think about this topic because we think it's important, and also recognize that self-acceptance is not a destination. It's not somewhere where you get to an end. It's a journey. And we want to appreciate that different things work for different people. And we're hoping that we can have curiosity and learn about ourselves at this conference and others, and really also use it as a way of understanding ourselves to advocate for what we need and feeling community. And now we're going to start kind of the Q&A to hear a little bit about Matt's journey and where he's at. And so, Matt, I just talked a little bit about literature, but let's talk about how you define self-acceptance and why it's important to you.
Great. So thank you very much. It's very much a loaded question. And honestly, everybody, from my experience, everything that Hannah summed up there, if you have time to go back and really look at the slides and really try to process what is being said there, it really does sum up my personal experience. And also to put out there the disclaimer, this worked for me, right? Is this going to work for everybody? Probably not. The idea of self-acceptance is very much a journey. I don't think it's a destination. Over our life, we play sort of different characters, different roles. on relationships, and we have different responsibilities, and we experience different things, and we might have gone from a great point of self-acceptance to now there's this change, and now I feel less good about myself. But in its simplest sense, what I would like to challenge all of you, everybody listening, whether you have an X or Y variation or not, in its simplest sense, I see self-acceptance as, are you happy being you? And, can you understand that? Can you process that? Are you happy with, are you content with the fact that you are good at certain things and that you also live with challenges? Maybe challenges that you've never met anybody else with that actually can relate to those challenges. With your strengths, with your weaknesses, with your energy level, with your mood, with what you feel you have control over, and then there's things you don't have control over. Are you happy being you? And so my challenge to you is to rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10 right now. Think about it. Everybody. 1, we'll start with the negative side of it first. 1 out of 10 is I really do not accept myself. I'm not happy being me. Every morning I wake up, I don't like being me. And this is a reality. This is how some people feel. And we should be aware of this and accepting of this, of others, that people live with this pain and sort of suffering every single day. All the way to 10 out of 10. I love being me. I'm happy being me. I do struggle with things, but it's okay because I know everybody struggles with things. Everybody, every single person struggles with something. Everybody has differences. How do I know this? Well, I specialize in treating people with progressive neurological diseases. Right? A lot of these people had normal lives, whatever that means, healthy lives, whatever that means. And now they acquire this issue in the later stages of their life. And even though some of them seem on paper had a great life, they think very much less of themselves now. And in those relationships, we talk about life and such things, and people, again, on paper who appear to be great and have everything will admit to having lots of insecurities, lots of regrets. So for me, living with Klinefelters and trying to make it through life and be happy with myself, and then meeting other people who I saw as better than me or superior to me, and realize even they struggled, was really eye-opening for me and helped me to really see myself as okay or normal even.
So, Matt, I think that's a really good lead-in to the next question. How have you personally worked to find self-acceptance? How has this played out for you?
Thank you. Yeah. So I'll try to simplify it again. So through empathy. So through talking with others that have Klinefelters. So back in 2018, I'm thankful that a handful of individuals with Klinefelters agreed to meet with me on a weekly basis via Zoom. These are things I did professionally for other clients, not X or Y variations, just something I did professionally for people. And I would bring people together. Essentially, you might think, well, this is just a support group. Yeah, it's a version of a support group. And I would ask them pointed questions that I knew everybody in the group I would have a thought or feeling towards. And in doing this, the clients would give me this feedback and say, boy, this really, one of them actually said this forces self-acceptance. And it made me think, like, what does that mean, the forced self-acceptance? And sort of this realization that you're not alone. There are other people with the same or similar things that they can relate to you. Those people are also living life. They seem to actually be doing okay. And that sort of, if they can do it, then why can't you? So this concept, for Klinefelters was Uh, Really, I was diagnosed around 20 or so, and I started this group at 36. And even though I asked for help and support from healthcare professionals, none of them really offered a concept like this to me. And I figured, well, let me try applying my professional knowledge to my own needs. And so that's what I did. And everybody in the group reported feeling better about themselves following these 8 weeks of just sharing thoughts and feelings about what it's like to be different. And really, it just normalized the feelings, the questions I had, and the doubts I had, and the insecurities I had that I thought about more or less on a daily basis for many, many years, just kind of went away. Anyways, but the magic bullet here is empathy, is meeting other people who can legitimately understand what you're feeling, as opposed to a health professional, and I can relate to that. And that even though I specialize in treating Parkinson's disease, and I know a ton about it, I know how to help their symptoms, I will never say to them, I know what it's like to have Parkinson's, right? Because I will never know what it's like to have Parkinson's unless I have it, right? Because having Klinefelter's comes with a feeling. And even though a lot of people can relate to anxiety and depression and other things, from my experience, Klinefelter's comes with a culmination of symptoms. And I think it's really to get the understanding you're looking for, you have to basically meet somebody else with that same scenario.
So, Matt, I'd love to hear a little more about how developing self-acceptance, this is a journey, right? And it sounds like meeting others with Klinefelter was really a changing point, and yet things have continued, right? You're learning more and having positive feedback. Maybe you can talk a little bit about how your journey of developing self-acceptance has really affected other parts of your life, like your career, your family, your sense of self.
Great. To put it simply, it's liberating. It feels freeing. It feels as though I'm dropping baggage that I've been carrying along with me my whole life by myself, surrounded by people who love me. I have a family, I have friends, I have colleagues, but I felt like I was just carrying these feelings of low self-worth or low self-esteem along with me, really unnecessarily. And that I was really valuing myself based on, reading medical reports of Klinefelter saying you're gonna have this, 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 and this, and I'm kind of carrying that along with me. And I realized, yes, I live with that, but that does not define me. That does not determine who Matt McKeon is and what I'm capable of doing or being or serving in the world. So really, it was just kind of dropping that and then trusting myself a little more, my intuition, how I would treat clients, how I'd interact with people, being more vulnerable in the sense of owning the fact that I have these things, not being embarrassed by them, but more or less using language to educate people that this does exist and it's okay. I do find that, you could talk freely about the challenges you have, and a lot of society doesn't really care. Not that it's like they're not caring people, but they aren't they aren't giving it so much weight that I was giving it. And that why was I seeing myself as less than for so long when nobody really sees me that way? Nobody else sees me that way, actually. I could say, oh, this, I live with this, and they'd be like, Matt, I never would have known. And it's like, why am I seeing myself as less than? But professionally, I grew tremendously. I'm a big advocate. I've been the leading person in growing a lot of things in my region, which is a very large and well-educated, and just being outside of Washington, D.C., I've been able to advocate for other conditions really well. And personally, you just carry yourself better. Your posture, your eye contact, your language, the way you speak, right? A lot of how you choose to communicate, I feel, is based on how you feel about yourself. So I'd say it's invaluable.
Wow. Well, speaking of invaluable, I feel like your message and just getting to speak with you is always at when I get to chat with you. So I'm so excited that you're sharing this now. So we're gonna wrap up in a minute, but I do want to give you a minute to just share a little bit about the AXYS drop-in chat program that you've helped start, and any kind of just words of things that you want others in our community to know.
Sure. So recently, within the past 2 months or so, I worked with AXYS as now being part of the board. And again, mission is to find just more things we can do to directly help the community. And so we started the AXYS chat pop-in. So the motivation for this is to give anybody with any X or Y variation, I have Klinefelters, but right, you can have any X or Y variation, a place to just pop in, just to meet other people, to receive this empathy that I talk about, right? Even though I don't have trisomy X, I don't have XXYY, I don't have XXXY, the challenges that all of these conditions face are very similar. There's common threads that run between all of them as far as cognitive difficulties or executive function challenges or expressive language challenges. And then within each of those variations, it's kind of like a spectrum from very, very mild to non-existent to more challenging. And I would encourage everybody, really, with an X or Y variation to sort of pop in, if you will, to these informal chats just to put a face with somebody with a variation. For you to come and just share your story and have it be legitimately heard, to have it be received by somebody who gets it, who can validate what you're feeling and help you really to own it, realize that you can openly express how you feel about yourself, and we're not going to view you any less than. If anything, I'll give you more credit for it because I'd say you're a leader. You're showing the world it's okay to be you. You're showing me it's okay to live with these challenges. And sort of the more people you have in these chat pop-ins, the stronger we become as a community. And just a little disclaimer to put in there about, these things are kind of like support groups. We don't label it as a support group. The groups I led for Parkinson's, I never labeled as a support group. In fact, a lot of the people that would come to it would say, I never want to be a part of a support group. And then, they'd come every week for years. And I'd say, how many of you use this as a support group? And they all raise their hand. So support groups are not necessarily what you think they are. And a lot of people may go to groups thinking, what does this do for me? If it doesn't help me, why am I going to come? So, well, you're going to come because it's not just about you. It's about other people too. And by you showing up, you are then showing acceptance to the other people who show up. So for those of you out there who think you may not have value or worth or power, I would say you are actually invaluable. That's correct. Invaluable. Not able to be measured. Why? Because you live with challenges and you have experiences that a lot of the world does not have. And when we come together, you are able to, again, show understanding at a level that the average person who doesn't live with these challenges is able to deliver. Right? So that alone gives you tremendous value. I mean that.
Well, Matt, thank you so much for sharing this message with our community. And we'll be posting resources with the slides and information for the chat, so you can come pop in. And now we're going to move to our interactive Q&A session.
Great.